Welcome to the Dawn of War Crucible tutorial. Today we will be going over the Sisters of Battle Stronghold, where I'll be explaining how it works, the best strategies to beat it, and any other miscellaneous information that could be relevant. So before we begin, let's first talk about the autoexec file. This is basically a file that gives you access to cheat commands that you can use to make the game easier. So in order for this to work, you need to have developers mode ticked in your mod manager, and then you click the hotkeys represented here, and it will do a specified thing. Specific ones I want to give note to: toggle FOV for revealing the map, give resource commands to give you a specific resource. People have been asking for a way to get infinite relic or things like that in the campaign, so here's a way to do that. And set sim rate commands, which set the game speed for you. Okay, so these commands specifically I wouldn't even consider cheats, because games like StarCraft have had game speed as an option for ages now. So feel free to use these commands freely. They will make the game easier, yes, but they will make it easier in a fair way. And similarly with the FOW command, sometimes when you're overwhelmed and you're not sure what's going on, you need to just have a look around, see what the AI is doing to plan and strategize. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the Stronghold itself. So, Sister Stronghold. It's a bit different in design from the prior ones that we did, especially because unlike the Necron Stronghold, which has a very clear timer, this does not. There is no after X minutes you lose kind of timer. There are still timers going on, but you don't just straight up lose. Everything that the game throws at you can be survived and isn't a lose condition, the way it is in the Necron Stronghold. Because in the Necron Stronghold, if you let the trial spawn, you kinda just lose in a practical sense. So, yeah. So, one thing to note about all Strongholds, but it applies to this one as well, is that the AI is smarter. As you saw there, the AI was throwing grenades, it was running back and forth, it was reinforcing its units. In general, the AI doesn't build, but it has like tactical capabilities, where it's able to move its units around, it's able to reinforce, give them proper weapons, all of that good stuff. Nope. Moving on to the Stronghold itself, you start with 4 listening posts, and this base is the initial base that I recommend clearing first. First of all, it has 3 listening posts, which nearly doubles your economy, unlike this one, which only has true. And sure, you get a crit, but a crit is not equivalent to a listening post, especially once you get the tier 1 or even tier 2 listening post upgrade. And also, this base spawns a bunch of initial attack waves, which get stronger and stronger, as you'll see. So it's also a good idea to get rid of it because of that. Otherwise, you'll just get overwhelmed and spend way too many resources dealing with the early attack waves. Okay. So, yeah. So, in the initial stages of the game, capture the 4 listening posts, build up your base a little bit, and then try to push this base. We will describe a strategy later which involves pushing this base first, but I wouldn't recommend that for beginners. So, few things to note about the Stronghold. First of all, the listening posts. These are tier 2 listening posts. This is because I'm playing this on Brutal. If you were playing this on hard, these would be tier 1 listening posts, and if you were playing this on normal, these would be tier 0 and wouldn't be able to shoot at all. This is part of the difficulty scaling, where the harder difficulties, the enemies have more defenses. Another thing that is difficulty scaling is that there are a bunch of timers. So the AI researches things on a timers, sends out attack waves on a timers, the Crusade is on a timer, practically everything is on a timer. And the timers, how much time you have, what I will be referencing is brutal in terms of how much time you have. So if you want to translate that to other difficulties, everything that I say in terms of timers, you have 50% more time on hard and 100% more time on normal. So for example, this initial base, it will send out attack waves every 90 seconds. So on hard, that will be 45 plus 90, so 135 seconds. And on normal, it will be 90 multiplied by 2, so 180 seconds. Okay. Also, another thing is that regardless, if the space is destroyed, the mission, the Crusade, the main attacks from the main base, and basically the rest of the mission will activate when the space is destroyed, or when 6 minutes pass. So again, transfer that into hard, it would be, instead of 6 minutes, it would be 9 minutes, and on normal, it would be 12 minutes. Okay. So, a few other timers I want to mention. There is a research timer of around 300 seconds. Is it? I think 300 seconds. Let me double check. Yes, 300 seconds. It would they will go up in tier, basically. It's not equivalent to going up from tier 1 to tier 2. It's kind of, you can think of it as half a tier. When they get their first research, they go from early tier 0 to late tier 0. When they get a second research, they go from late tier 0 to early tier 1. And after that, you go later and later. So then the next one is late tier 1, and etc, etc. Okay? That's basically how that works. Also, as you can see, these attack waves are getting quite strong. They're sending redemptionists at you fairly early on, so hence why I said you should probably look into getting rid of that base, because it will send stronger and stronger attack waves at you, and you will have to spend more and more resources defending them. Once you get rid of it, not only do you get more resources, but you also have to spend less resources on defending. So, Crusades. This is, as you can see, that activated at around 6 minutes. So, this mechanic is basically the main mechanic of the Stronghold, which is a Confessor spawns when the Faith fills up, and the Confessor will go around to all of the recruitment centers, and it will, each recruitment center that it goes to, it will reinforce its, the Confessor will reinforce its army with extra units. And the order goes as follows. This is base 1, this is base 2, this is base 3, this is base 4, it will go over here, this is base 5, so it will go over here, this is base 6, and then it will go after you. Oh, assassins. Yeah. I'll talk about the assassins later, but basically assassins come and go after your main hero after a certain amount of time. Okay. Just deal with this so I don't straight up die. Okay, so another thing to note is that you will get attacked from both the main base after this base is destroyed. So along with the Crusade, attacks from main base will activate. And after certain conditions, both the side bases will activate. This base will send tanks and tank-like vehicles at you, and this base will send aircraft and some infantry to support at you. So there's kind of 4 attack paths. Main base, side bases, and then the Crusade. And those are the main attack paths. There are 2 more ways that you can get attacked. So, and there we go, Exorcist tank. You can see this base now activated. So there are 2 more ways that you can get attacked, quote unquote. There are assassins. I'm sure you saw a bunch of assassins came, killed my hero, and left. That will happen periodically, where assassins will spawn at this base, at the Ordo Hereticus chamber, and they will go after your hero, if they're alive. And if your hero dies, these assassins will go to the main HQ and just chill here until, until it happens again. So there's 2 ways to deal with that. Either kill the assassins or just don't use your main hero, and then they won't spawn and won't come for you. They're not too difficult to deal with, but they can catch you off guard. Okay? And this is kind of a trade-off, because obviously you put a lot of war gear into your main hero and they're quite strong. So, is it worth it to leave them off the battlefield just so you don't have to deal with the assassin? It's a trade-off you have to decide for yourself. Another thing that will happen is that there are special barracks around the map where if you capture any of the listening posts that are not your starting 4, periodically Celestians will spawn at those barracks, and they will go after any of the other listening posts that you captured. So let's say if you were to capture these 2 here, Celestians will spawn and try to destroy and recapture these listening posts. Okay? You don't need to worry about which exact barracks the Celestians will spawn from. As you go around clearing the recruitment centers, you will naturally destroy those spawners, and then they will stop spawning. So you don't need to worry about that specifically, just something to be wary of. So, going back to the Crusade. As you can see, amount required for a Crusade increases when a Confessor spawned. And the Confessor will go to different places. So, as you can see, it spawned a unit of Battle Sisters and Archoflagellants that are now joining the Confessor. And then the Confessor will go over here, and then it will go down. Need to make sure that I don't actually die. So yeah. Or the Hereticus Inquisitor. Oh yeah, right, it will also spawn heroes that will also level up over time. So yeah. Archoflagellants, or the Hereticus, Battle Sisters, Confessors will spawn, and then they will move on to the next base. And there we go, now they're moving. Okay. So yeah, this will go in the pattern that I mentioned, and after it reaches the last recruitment center that is available to it, it will go and attack you. So the idea is you either snipe the Confessor themselves, right, because they don't have a lot of health. You can easily kill them with a few assassins or whatever else. But then if you do that, all of the units it has gathered for the Crusade, they won't just disappear or go away. They will kind of roam around aimlessly, and whenever a new Confessor spawns, they will join the next Crusade. So you're basically just delaying the problem, which can be useful, don't get me wrong. Like, if, let's say, it recruits a bunch of units from these 4 bases, sniping it when it's on transit over here so that the units are just staying around here and not doing much of anything, giving you precious time to tech up and, get more units, that can be useful. So it is a viable strategy, but know that you're only delaying the problem. Obviously, you can just intercept the entire army and kill it, or you can let it recruit all the way around, and then just defend the giant attack wave that comes afterwards. I don't recommend doing that, maybe for the first wave. Like, maybe the first wave, it's okay to let it recruit all the way and then come for you, and if you have a few turrets, you should be more or less okay. But in general, the more you let it recruit, the harder the mission will be, so you need to be careful with that. So, as for strategies, the strategies will mostly revolve around how do you deal with the Crusade, because that is the main mechanic. So, strategy number 1, you destroy this base, and this gives you a very, very easy access to the Crusade as it's going from here along this road all the way over here. So you set up your defenses over here, you deal with the Crusade that comes from these 4 bases, and that's it. Oh yeah, sorry. Right, I forgot. There is a 5th one over here, so my bad. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you interrupt it between the 4th and the 5th Crusade. Okay? Yes. Apologies. I don't know how I missed this, but yeah. So yeah, so you interrupt it before its 4th and 5th one. And in doing so, you only have to deal with half of the wave you would usually have to defend. And not to mention, once you push out this way and destroy these bases, you have a defensive perimeter which will basically defend everything coming from over here. Both the attacks from this way base and Confessor as it goes down. So that's the recommended strategy. Take out this base, move over here, and set up a defensive perimeter somewhere around here. Sometimes the units will move through the base like this, but even so, if you destroyed this base and this base, they will go and from here attack you anyway, so defenses over here should be fine. Okay? Set up some nice turrets, some artillery, use the heavy cover in order to, reduce damage taken, and there you go. So, second strategy is to ignore this base and basically set up a defensive perimeter like over here and deal with the attack waves from this safe base as they come, and push out over this way straight away. So you push out over here, get the crit, and then you push out over here, deal with the air attacks early with a recruitment center early, with 2 recruitment centers early, and you also get a relic. This is the strategy you would want to go for if you want to tech up really quickly to relic units, because you get access to the crit, you get access to the relic, so you can just turtle, quote unquote, and just defend until you can get Titans and then go and crush the rest of the map. Depending on how good you are, this strategy is also viable, but it is riskier, because if you spend too many resources getting here, or if you're repelled from here, then you're kind of fucked. Because instead of having a 7 listening post economy, you have a 6 listening post economy, you still have attack waves coming from over here, and you have a much more awkward position to deal with the Confessor, because here you're dealing with it between 4 and 5. Here you're dealing with it probably after 5, so that's an extra recruitment that it gets in. So yeah, it's a riskier strategy, but it can work. So, third strategy, for those of you that are really ballsy, starts off the same as the first strategy. You destroy this base early, but then, instead of setting up a defensive wave, you go super aggro and you push in here and get rid of this. So not only will this destroy 2 recruitment centers, but it gives you access to this position over here. So ideally you would want to take out this base as well, but it's not necessary. So this is the fuck your Crusade strategy, where you destroy this over here and you give yourself access to the Confessor after its first recruitment center. So it will only be able to recruit from one, maybe the second center, depending on where exactly you set up your defenses, but it only gets like 1 or 2 recruitments in before the Crusade is over. So yeah, if you really don't want to deal with the Crusades, then you just push straight through, destroy these 2 bases and this base, and there you go. You set up some defensive turrets, and that's it. You don't have to worry about Crusades. Problem with this is that you still have this base to deal with, and this base to deal with. Now, one caveat to this strategy. So, if you destroy this base, these bases, and these bases, right? Let me show you this in the objectives. So, if you destroy these 3 bases, the Confessor will only go here, and you will be able to intercept it if this base stays alive. So if you destroy all 4 bases on this side, what the Confessor will do is it will move over here, and then it will go back and go over here. So it will go 1, 6, 7, and skip, these. So this is an important point. If you're going for the strategy, you kind of need to keep the tank base alive. I'm pretty sure the objective itself is the HQ. So I think if you don't destroy the HQ, you should be good, and that should still count as a recruitment center. However, you will keep getting attack waves from here. So that's the problem. Like, yeah, you can stop the Crusades in their tracks, but this base will basically continuously spawn attack waves that you have to deal with, and you can't really kill it before you destroy these bases over here. Otherwise, your whole idea of getting the Crusades, dealing with the Crusades goes out the window. So it's a bit of a risky and finicky strategy, because you have to defend attacks from the main base that will come for you. You have to defend attack waves from over here. You have to defend attack waves from over here. But if you are able to set it up correctly, you have basically neutralized the main mechanic of the Stronghold. So, now let's talk about the main mechanic of the Stronghold, which is to do with these 4 shrines at the sides of the base, as well as this big boy. So, if you have never done the Stronghold before, what happens is that if you try to attack one of the Shrines of the Living Saint, the Throne of Judgment will teleport to it, and then it will defend it. And as you can see, whilst the Throne of Judgment is near it, the shrine is invulnerable. So, the way to deal with this is that what you need to do is you need to bait the shrine to one of the other bait the throne to one of the other shrines, and then go and attack one of the shrines. I would recommend clearing the entire map before dealing with this, just because of how many steps it takes to do this. So, let's say you bait it over here, and then you destroy these 3 shrines. Well, how do you get rid of the last one? Well, you need to send some units to the main base, bait the throne into the main base, and then you can kill the last shrine of the Living Saint. Okay? So you need to bait it to either one of the other shrines or to the main base, and then kill all 4 shrines, and then it becomes vulnerable. So the throne is vulnerable then, but stuff around it is not. So then you need to kill the Throne of Judgment, and that's when you can go and actually destroy the main base. So as you can see, a lot of steps to this, hence why I recommend clearing out the rest of the map before you do this. So with that, I think we have dealt with most of what this Stronghold has to offer. It's a relatively simple one compared to some others. One last thing to note is that, as you will see, there are these units kind of patrolling around. These are just patrolling units similar to the necron units that are patrolling the crits, so they just patrol around areas kind of in around these kind of streets. So you will have to deal with some of those as well. But there are only a few units, so they shouldn't be that big of a deal. So yeah, so to summarize, the main thing that you need to do is that you need to make sure that you balance your offense and defense properly. Where if you spend too much on turrets and not enough on offense, you will simply get out-teched. If you spend too much on offense, you will get caught off guard by an attack wave from an awkward angle, and you will die to that. So you really need to balance your defense and offense, and as always, this will be a pattern with strongholds. I do not recommend turtling in your initial base. Once you have dealt with this, and maybe like this entire half of the map, sure, then you can sit back and tech up because you have enough resources to do so. If you're just sitting in your main base, you won't straight up lose, but the enemy will send angels and knights and whatever the hell else at you way, way, way before you're ready for it. So be warned. It might work on normal, but it probably won't work on hard or brutal to sit in your main base. So yeah, as always, aggressive expansion is king. It's just in this stronghold it needs to be balanced with defenses in key choke points. And that's it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this was informative. If you have any questions, suggestions, or you want any help, you can leave them in the comments. However, I would recommend that you go into our Discord because we talk a lot more there and you can get better help there. We have entire chats dedicated to either helping with specific factions or helping with the campaign or the strongholds in general. One last thing, even if you don't want to ever play Sisters, I would recommend watching the Sisters guide because there are some tricks up the Sisters sleeves that you need to know and understand in order to properly deal with the strongholds. Like, for example, the faith ability that gets a unit to be effective versus all unit types, the invulnerability that the Saints give later in their tech tree, and etc, etc. So I would still recommend watching that video just so you have a better understanding on how to deal with Sisters in general. Okay, well, thank you for watching, and see you guys in the next one.